What does Fears of Fathom, Ironbark Lookout hide from the player behind the scenes? In the 4th episode of Fears of Fathom, our character is a park ranger who just transferred to a new post. And yes, as you may have guessed, things horrifyingly escalate for this dude. Things aren't as they seem, and with this game's dark and gritty style, there's a lot the player can't see. Like this group of friendly fellows conducting their cult rituals, or perhaps this man, using the bathroom. We have quite a bit to check out, and of course break, like zombies swarming the park, and even a way to warp to the credits. So I hope you enjoy this alternative look at this dark tale. As always, I usually hit you guys with a very brief recap, so everyone knows the sequence of events that take place throughout the game. With that said, starting off, we'll read that this is a story about Jack Nelson, a park ranger for a state park. He explains how he ended up getting transferred to another outpost, which results with quite the commute. Living out of an RV makes this a minor inconvenience though, so he says his goodbyes as he heads off to his newly assigned location. The game then starts as we're driving the RV. Opening the phone will show 2 individual conversations that we're having, between Mitch Scott and Kayla Nelson. After some more driving, Kayla will message us informing Jack that there's a diner that we should be passing by as we enter Roseburg. Sure enough, shortly after we begin driving through Roseburg, we can see the diner off to the right, which is where we'll be heading. After parking, we can see there's a man leaning on a car as he very loudly chews on this burger. Talking to him reveals that some kids have gone missing from the park in which our character is working at. There are rumors that a creature is responsible, and so on and so forth. Heading inside, we're greeted by a waitress who tells us to take a seat wherever we please. There are some questionable characters in here, with this guy telling us to leave him alone, and this guy straight up ignoring us. There's also a delivery man of some sort, and a businessman at the bar. Taking a seat will bring the waitress to us, and at this point, we basically just order a meal. While waiting for our food, our character needs to use the restroom. So we head to the restroom, do our business, wash our hands, and head back to our booth. It is now time to eat. Glorious! Once we're finished eating, our server will cash us out. As we make our way to the RV, we'll notice the doors open, which is definitely suspect, along with the bathroom door within the RV being strangely jammed. So we just blatantly ignore that detail, hop in the driver's seat, and continue this commute. Nothing wrong going on here, right? The screen will fade to black, loading us into the next scene. We'll stop the recap here for now, so let's go back and take a closer look at this entire sequence we just played through. If we go for an aerial view, we'll see a good amount of trees, some mountain-like terrain, and a body of water that's running alongside the road that we drive down. We can see we're playing on a fairly large map, and the road we're driving on eventually ends. What I found interesting though, is this semi-truck that drives past us during our drive to the diner. I was thinking we'd die if we went for a head-on collision with it, but that's not the case here. This truck wants to get past us so badly that it tries to leap over me. So this led to attempting to see if we could flip the semi and stop it in its tracks. However, trying this ended up with our RV getting stuck in the guardrail. It's out that this guy hasn't got out of his truck yet to exchange insurance though. The nerve! But then this happened. The truck began shaking all over as it began to lose control, eventually flying off the road and into the water. Just when I thought it was over, the truck glitches back up top and proceeds to do a headstand on the RV, immediately resetting itself. It then proceeds to drive through the RV, making its totally normal escape. All by my lonesome now, I decided to try to flip the RV. I wanted to see if I could drive this upside down, like I had in a previous episode with a car. It's safe to say though, that this bad boy is, not going anywhere while upside down. How are we gonna explain this one to AAA? I did learn that this RV doubles as a submarine. I managed to get it down into the water, and even was able to drive down here, making for a great adventure. It was pretty cool looking overall, but there's no way of driving out of here though. So after dramatically teleporting high into the sky and plummeting back to dry land, we head into Roseburg. It comes to no surprise that all the structures within this area don't reveal much, as nothing is inside any of them, making the diner our main focus. Cheeseburger Guy's chewing is too much for me, so I don't give him much attention and immediately head inside. Something I didn't notice during my initial playthrough was the guy that doesn't speak to us. He has with him a shovel, a bag, and some strange attire, making him that much more suspicious. We'll get back to him. However, during the sequence when the server goes to get our meal we ordered, I decide to follow her to make sure she handles my food properly. We can see she walks back into this fairly empty kitchen and into this wall as the meal on her tray visibly changes. She will just walk in place here until the player advances. Going to the restroom and sitting back down will then start her journey for bringing our food out. Changing our focus back to the suspicious guy, we can see that when he goes to the restroom as we're checking out, he'll enter the room and sit in the middle of it as he continues his dining animation. I found this to be hilarious. I don't know why. He doesn't even mind if we join him in the restroom. Nothing going on here, just friendships being made. The only other thing that happens here is when we go to our RV. We can see the door is opened, and later we'll find the bathroom door is strangely jammed. To me, this implies that the odd restroom man from the diner is in here, because after paying the bill, he's nowhere to be found normally. Sadly, looking in the RV restroom reveals that it's empty. Things are clearly escalating here though, so I make my way out to the RV, start her up, and make my way to the next section of the game. It's 8:02 p.m. at this point as we arrive at the front gate of our destination. After getting the RV parked, we can make our way out and towards what appears to be a front office building. It's here where we'll get jump scared by the shotgun-wielding ranger, which caught me off guard during my first playthrough. As we're getting acquainted with this ranger known as Billy, we can see someone walking outside through the window. This is definitely a bit sus. However, Billy is clueless as he proceeds to confirm we are who we say we are. Billy ends up clearing us and assigns our character to Fire Tower 11. He'll then go outside, open the gate, give us a flashlight, and then advise that we should not travel any further north than a half mile of our tower. He says that it's dangerous, stating that there's bobcats and bears, nasty business. We then need to grab our bag before we head into the park. Once doing so, we load into the next sequence. Going back and looking at the entirety of this area, we can see that it's a long stretch of road that makes a C-like shape. There's really nothing in the outer bounds besides all these trees, of course, so our main focus is going to be the front gate area to the park. Taking a sneak peek in the front office building before we open it, we can see Billy anxiously standing guard at the door as he waits for us. Let's be real though, Billy has zero chill when we open this door. I mean, who answers the door like this? I guess in his defense, my character is invisible, so there's that. However, I'm more interested in the fellow that's going on a nightly stroll into the park. I realize that this guy looks familiar, and that's because it's our toilet friend from the diner. He just walks on by and eventually disappears. I did manage to load him back in, which made the strange guy just stand where he had vanished. I think it's fair to say that my coworker is no longer concerned for his safety, as this creeper is now staring at us through the window. Things take an even stranger direction as I decide to invite this man into the office. It was awkward at first, but eventually we all got to know one another and had a few laughs as we hung out for a bit. Judging by his face, I'm sure he's questioning why he even came to this park in the first place. With that though, let's continue to the next section. So this area is where we'll be spending the majority of our time. We'll be able to make our way to Tower 11 if we just follow the signs. After we get settled in, we end up conversing with Connor over the radio, who is another ranger that's stationed at Tower 12. We'll be having a lot of back and forth with him over the radio. But we now need to head down and obtain some firewood. Bringing it back up, we aggressively start a fire so we can stay cozy with potential third-degree burns. So part of our job is to fill out this service reporting form, recording the current temperature, wind speed, weather condition, and number of hikers assisted. Once finishing the report, you can find some strange videos that are on this computer, but my favorite of them all has to be this video titled Cats. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Moving on though, once we close up the windows and go to sleep, we'll wake up in the middle of the night because our character needs to use the restroom. After we make it rain, we'll see someone down below with a flashlight as they point it at us right before turning it off. Grabbing the binoculars quickly and feeling that "do you copy PTSD?", we look down to see a figure slowly walking away as they disappear behind the trees. Our character decides to just go back to sleep though, which, okay, don't want to lose any sleep over it, I suppose. This brings us into day 2, where we'll find ourselves sipping on some coffee as we take pictures of the scenery. Eventually, Connor will radio us about some visible smoke north of our position. This then follows with the player needing to go and investigate the smoke out north. Remember though, Billy from the previous section told us to not go too far north in the park. So, whoops. Following this trail will lead us to the next section of the game as the screen fades to black. Let's once again go back through the entirety of this area and take a closer look at it all now. Entering the park, we can see our character holding his bag and flashlight. But if we go for an aerial view, we can see the entire layout of this section. Tower 12 looks as if it hasn't been fully constructed, which makes sense, seeing as we normally never be this close to even notice. I got sidetracked and couldn't help myself, which followed with the deletion of some barriers so I could Sonic the Hedgehog my way along the water. It was entertaining to run fast like this, and it ended up leading me to this cool little waterfall that feeds into this river. There really isn't much else going on here though, so our main focus is going to be the immediate area of Tower 11. The person with a flashlight is the only occurrence that really takes place during this whole sequence. Breaking through some barriers, we can make our way down to this individual and see that it's, well, our friend from once before. So to recap, it's to my understanding that this guy stuck into our RV while at the diner and then proceeded to catch a ride with us to the park. This would explain why he can be seen creeping behind the front gate building from before. At any rate, I realized he wasn't moving because I haven't looked at him with the binoculars yet. So I ran back up real quick and used the binoculars. Coming back down, we can see that he doesn't venture too far from where he was, and he never despawns either. Naturally, I began messing with the stranger, which led me to finding another variant of him. This model, labeled as bad guy, is from another scene that doesn't take place until later. As you can see though, I had some fun with him, as I made him nearly the size of the tower. I didn't forget his twin, so I dragged him over to join the fun as well. In the end, I find myself in what would normally be a terrifying situation. On that day, humanity received a grim reminder. I couldn't help but laugh though, as I continue with the rest of the scene. After removing water from our body off the side of the tower, we'll see that one of the twins begins to walk to where he initially needs to be. We can then sort of see how it breaks, with the flashlight spawning in as he continues to try and get into position. This time around, it was nice to have some company as I sipped on my coffee, even if he didn't seem too happy to be here. Taking a closer look at the smoke that appears shows that it's just rising from this empty canvas, which of course is no surprise. Other than trying to mace this giant weirdo, not much else takes place in this scene. So we'll go ahead and proceed to the next section, where we'll investigate the smoke to the north. Loading in, we'll follow the trail that leads to the source of the smoke, which ends up being this little campsite. Right before we get to the campsite, we'll hear a male-like scream. A bunch of delayed text will then come through due to our phone's bad reception, but no one appears to be at this campsite once we enter it. However, if we approach this closure barrier, we'll see a shadow-like figure creeping through the tall grass. Our character will try to communicate with this lurking individual, but no one responds. The only thing our character has to say about this situation is the area beyond that site was closed. It's at this point that we grab a bucket, fill it with water, and proceed to put this fire out. We'll hear some noises as if someone's close to us, but ultimately nothing happens as we leave and load back into the previous area. Coming back to this area to break it, you can see this map is probably the smallest of them all, with a rectangular shaped canvas. Half of the map that's unused is rugged and slopes downward. I came out here and did a 5K, but there's nothing out here. The camp itself doesn't hide anything from the player, but we can get a better look at this fellow in the woods. They will creepily stand by and wait for the player to spot them. This attire that the person has on looks terribly familiar though. If you haven't guessed already, I believe this is the outfit we see next to the strange man we encounter in the diner. So if this theory is correct, that means if we take the mask off, we see that it's... Wait, what? Who is that? This monster of a man is too much, and I couldn't stop laughing. Once the player sees him, he crouches and walks into this tall grass, where he eventually stops and continuously walks in place. I'm still having trouble accepting this guy's makeover as I take his mask off again. He looks way too excited about this whole cult stalking gig that he has going on, that's for sure. You can see how it's just the front of his face that's visible, making for a strange looking dude. So I made my way over to the guy to see if I could mess with him. Obviously, the mace has no effect on him, but he seems too happy to care anyways. This is all I came across during my exploration of this area though, so let's go ahead and progress with the story and enter the next scene. After putting the fire out, we make our way back to the tower to report to Connor about the campsite. He then mentions that people have been flocking to the area because of the disappearance of 3 kids, with there being rumors of entities haunting the area. After telling him we don't believe that, he's thankful and says he'll contact the authorities so we can take care of it first thing in the morning. I personally feel there should be more urgency here, but okay Connor. All this commotion has made us hungry though, so we whip up some lasagna and throw it in the oven. While we wait and think about the lasagna we ate in the first Fears to Fathom chapter, we can do our report for the night. Once done, we can now smash this dish. We then awkwardly eat it on our bed as we sit in paranoia, but nothing occurs during this meal. Soon after this, we fall asleep. However, our character gets woken up and we can see that we're not exactly alone. Getting up, we'll quickly realize our cultist friend is right outside the window as he proceeds to walk around the outside of the tower. I could hear him coming to the door, and I don't know why, but I thought he may have left, so I opened the door. Yeah, he didn't go anywhere, and this bear spray does nothing. After reloading, I decided to wait before I opened the door, which ends up being the way to go about it. We'll find that he left us a little present though, which is, needless to say, terrifying. Informing Connor of everything that took place is unsurprisingly useless, as he downplays it, saying it's probably just kids messing with me. Once again, okay Connor, but we just turn the light off and go back to bed. Going back and looking at the sequence from another view, we can see the cultist standing in our window, waiting for us to look at him. Clearly, he's still very happy to be here. We can watch him creepily crab walk around the tower as he approaches the main door. The entire sequence is funny to watch, mostly because he has been unmasked. After he leaves us this gift though, he'll continue making his way around and down the stairs of the tower. He eventually despawns near the bottom of the stairs. Outside of this gothic birthday celebration, nothing else new occurs during this whole section. Which brings me to Plague. This is a computer game our character can play, which is basically a horde mode zombie game, as we continuously fight off these undead. A game where we can get infinite headshot points if we just shoot dead zombies on the ground. I couldn't help but wonder, what if we took the zombies and even this nifty shotgun out of the computer and into the state park we're at? What could go wrong? We normally play this on a small screen, but in reality, the map and player controller is set up just like the one we're playing now. So if we load it in, well, the result is fairly glitchy, but as you can see, I now have a zombie chasing me as we make our way up the tower. I was surprised to see they were able to follow me, just because I assumed their nav mesh would only be tied to the video game environment. I go ahead and blast this one out of existence, and then try to spawn more in. Now that I had this horde following me, I need to try and stay alive, because adding all of this in was kind of a pain in the butt. So I make my way up the tower, and as you can see, I can't use the door. This is because we're technically using a different quote-unquote player than our typical RV dude. But what's odd is this horde never came up the stairs like the previous zombie. In fact, they straight up disappeared, and I couldn't really make sense of it. Eventually I realized where they went though. Somehow they broke out of the map and, well, just kept on running. I could find the zombies scattered throughout the outer bounds of the map, hilariously fleeing for their undead lives. Unfortunately, with this setup, I can't proceed through the game, so I guess it's time to say bye to the shoddy and continue on with the original game. However, not before making a slippery slope of shoddy shells. I love game physics. So night 3 starts off with us having to clean our binoculars and survey the area. We'll end up seeing a flare go off, which follows with us talking to a hiker over the radio. The hiker sounds just like Connor, which confused me at first, but he sounds distressed and lost, and requires our help to get out of the woods safely. The game, Do You Copy, trained me for this moment. In a nutshell, it seems no matter what direction we give this hiker, the conversation ends with him thinking he found us, but it's definitely not us. I do believe our direction does dictate his survival though, which I'll explain in a few. We're interrupted by a knock on the door though, which follows with this odd conversation with Billy, as he gives us some tower supplies. He'll eventually leave, as we're left with eating some more food, doing our report, and going back to sleep. Wait, we need some more firewood. So we head down to grab some, and boom, jump scared by none other than our best friend slash cultist. He claims to be a worker and is just creepy overall. Once done talking with him, he'll just casually walk into the woods, as we're supposed to pretend that was normal. I was able to keep my eyes on him as he walked through the woods, and managed to find that he eventually stops and just walks in place down this trail, being visible to the player. Anyways, we head back up, start a fire, and learn from Connor that there are no workers. After bringing up the worker, he thinks we're just yanking his chain. Despite all this suspicion, we finally go to bed. Going back through the scene, when the hiker shoots the flare into the sky, it's fairly similar to the smoke we ended up investigating earlier, as the flare also comes from the blank canvas area. As for Billy, he just appears at our door, and when he leaves, he takes a long walk down the stairs and then leaves the Tower 11 site, disappearing shortly after. As for our creepy friend who jump scares us, he only appears as soon as we grab some firewood. Also, this is the second model of the bad guy that I was messing with earlier in the video, the one I made into a giant. After he leaves and ends up in that resting spot, where we can normally track him, I break the barrier and take a closer look. I attempted to end the game early, but clearly, as you can see, this plan wasn't quite working. Progressing the story, the 2 nights later portion has nothing of interest when it comes to out-of-bounds activity, or anything of that nature. It involves the player updating the computer, which ends up shutting the power off. We then get the generator back on, go to the bathroom, and fade to black as we complete the scene. It is now 1 week later, as our character talks about Connor's generator undergoing maintenance, basically reminiscing about the isolation he's experiencing in the tower. However, it ends up that we have another incident occurring as we wake up to Connor over the radio in the early morning. When going to check out the smoke this time, we find a very questionable situation occurring across the water. The only thing our character could think of doing is to acquire evidence. So we pull the camera out, and Wait, was that the best idea? Not good. Where'd they go? Now we have company! Glorious! So we do the most obvious thing possible and hide under the bed. There's nowhere else to go. Eventually the cultist breaks the door in and will proceed to search the room. He'll make his way back out, and that's when we need to make a run for it. Frantically running down the stairs, I ended up hiding in the portable toilet. This ends up being the right thing to do, as our clueless cultist friend doesn't know what to do. Eventually he'll head to the shed, and we can make a pretty safe run for it at this point, loading us into the final scene. Let's go back and take a closer look at these cultists though, shall we? Remember the hiker we attempted to assist over the radio from before? Well, to my understanding, if we tell him to go right as we're directing them, this ultimately kills him. We can see his body lying on the ground by all the cultists when telling him to go right. However, if we tell him to go left, his lifeless body is not in the scene, which makes me believe that he's survived? Food for thought? These cultists though, let's just say they're all happy to be here. Each and every single one of them. When taking their picture, I had to slow the game down, which resulted with them sliding rather than running. It was pretty funny to watch. You can see their line of sight is fixed on my character, which adds to this strange sequence. Taking the masks off really shows just how flexible these guys' faces are. The one in white will go in the tent and remain there indefinitely, but the rest of the gang, they hilariously run to this spot where they all group up and essentially create this weird mosh pit. It's pretty funny to watch as their heads flip all about, struggling to keep their line of sight on the player. We can see the main cultist that comes after us has his flashlight implanted in his arm, which makes sense seeing as we'd normally never be able to clearly see how he's holding it. Watching him come into the tower isn't much different, but as long as my dude is having a grand time being a psycho, it's all good. He'll eventually wrap around the tower and then wait for us to make our escape. At this point, I decided to go check in on our other friends, and, well, yeah, they're still, doing their thing. I decided to use my Nightcrawler powers and teleport over to this area. I then joined the mosh pit they had going on. As you can see, it felt about as awkward as it looked. What a time to be alive. However, it's now time to make our escape before things escalate any further here. Stay back, evildoers. Moving into the final scene, we need to keep running, as the cultist does end up appearing as he continues to pursue us. Once in the RV, the screen fades to black as the credits roll soon after. The one thing I found curious about this end sequence is that if we just stand here and don't progress, the cultist never shows up. It's only after we get so far that he'll appear and begin to chase us. And when he does begin chasing us with a knife out, we can straight up get him to run through objects. He has no chill at all. But here's the kicker. During this whole ordeal, I found something that you any % speedrunners might be interested in. Because you don't even have to do this scene at all. The developer put a skip to the credits command in this final scene, so as soon as you load this map during this final instance, all you have to do is hit the L key on your keyboard and the game will be completed. I'm assuming they forgot to remove this before building out the game. The credits scene is also pretty standard, and there's not a lot going on behind the scenes. But with that, we've come to the end of our journey in Fears of Fathom Ironbark Lookout. I hope you guys enjoyed my broken adventure, subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in my next game break real soon. Cheers!